Nun kan tahu dulu tahu malah terima kasih.
Mawang dia.
Mawang dia. Amin karo nun bawang kepo
Mawang dia. Do lihat.
More. I will introduce Ian. Mula karo nak tantau dekap lah kan. Mado kena nari kerana nutbe sekolah nak dekap karo do translate. Ian karo nut English kelak. English. Ian has been a dear friend, and actually when I first arrived in Canada, I stayed with Ian for many years in his house, and Ian has housed me, and we have been dear friends for all these years, and I owe a lot to Ian, and it has been Ian who encouraged me also in many ways to start this dictionary. I never think that I would start a dictionary or write a dictionary. I'm not qualified to write one. I was supposed to do an oral history. It's about you, Ian. Sorry. Ian have been helping our family in many ways, the children also, and bring them to the Penan and see how the lives of the Penan are. And Ian actually wrote the first ever dictionary of a Penan, a full dictionary which people can use. And Ian has encouraged me to start this dictionary and has checked, edit a lot of what has gone on in the dictionary in many ways. Ian has just come back from Longlesuan in Pelaut Nye Seridang. He just came out from the jungle just a few days ago. So again, Ian, thank you for being present here, and I speak Hapanan.
Well, I could talk in Penan, and I know some Kelabits who actually speak quite good Penan. I would, of course, deliver this speech in Kelabit, but my Kelabit is a bit rusty. That's your fault for not teaching me. I only learned at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon that I was to be a keynote speaker. So, I don't really have anything prepared. But I know quite a lot of things, but it can be very disorganized. And I'm not exactly sure in what way I can be most valuable or what the most useful information that I have that I can impart to you. So please feel free to interrupt me. I mean, it's not rude. You actually help me, you see, because in 7,000 languages in the world. And we don't really know for sure, not only because there's often not enough information available to count them, but because even what a language is open to definition. Are two forms of speech the same language, even though they differ from each other? How much do they have to differ to become different languages? I mean, for example, Swedish and Norwegian are different languages, you think, but they aren't really. I've been present when Swedes and Norse, simple people, have been talking with each other for hours, absolutely no problem. Kelabit and Lumbawang sound like they're different languages, but actually you can talk with each other perfectly well. Whereas there are variants of Kenya, I am told, which are mutually unintelligible. Western Penan are quite different people from Eastern Penan. I met one once, and we very quickly had to speak in Malay because we couldn't understand each other. So that's why I say we only know there are roughly 7,000 languages, but it's, it gives you an idea. About half of that number of languages, something like 3,500 languages, are spoken by 5,000 people or less. So Kelabit, if you leave out Lun Bawang, and we're cheating a bit, but Kelabit doesn't come much above that threshold. 20 of the languages, and you've all heard their names, you all know them, Mandarin, Chinese, English, Italian, Spanish, Thai, all languages spoken by 50 million peoples or more. Just 20 of the world's languages are spoken by half of the world's population. So and Malay is part of that, by the way. Malay, Indonesian, basically the same language. One of the great world languages, something like 300 million people speak it. So all those other languages are under increased pressure, and they are disappearing at a rapid rate. And no one really knows how many will disappear, but there have been some estimates that half of all the languages spoken today will no longer be spoken in 100 years, or perhaps even less. What makes a language endangered is a number of factors endanger a language, and even in a place where there is no direct pressure, government directives to suppress a particular speech variant, it can disappear anyway just because people move to the city. And I see this happening with the Kelabit people. I see it beginning to happen with the Penan people. The Penans are maybe 1 or 2 generations behind. But I have a Penan friend here living in Miri who has a master's degree, and he's married an Iban woman. They have 2 children. Do you know what language the children speak? They only speak one language. It's English, correct. And so when these kids go to school, they'll learn Malay for sure. They won't have to learn any other language. And if they learn the 3rd language, it's most likely to be Iban, because it's actually a rather important language, right? Penan is number 4. So you've seen this happening all the time. You understand how it works. So well, first of all, why is this bad for all these languages to disappear? And some people say, especially if they're native speakers of, say, English or Chinese or something, well, what's the use of all those languages? Well, a language, of course, I don't have to explain what the value of a language is to a community itself. The cultural value, the identity, the connection with the past, the spiritual value, if you will, in the large sense. But it's actually, every single language on the earth is of value to all of the human race. And that's because each language has a different way of seeing the universe. And I can make you understand this very easily, precisely because you're all native speakers of another language, the language I'm not speaking. And if you just think about it, I know from Penan, I'm sure the situation is the same for Kelabit, because both of these languages have been so isolated from the European culture for so long, that if I look at a language, say like French, well, most French words can be directly translated into English, 1-to-1. Well, there's a lot of exceptions. Even there, it's not as easy as you think. But for Penan, only about half of Penan words, and I'm sure this is true for Kelabit too, can be directly translated into English with a single English word. You normally need an explanation, several words, because each language divides the world up into different concepts. And the same thing is true for English. If I try to translate English words into Penan, I'm going to try doing this because I made a little dictionary for them. It's not the big dictionary, which is very big. I didn't bring it, it's too big. But this little dictionary here, but but for popular demand. This is a dictionary of English for Penans who are learning English, but the fact is that at least half of English words can't be translated into Penan. So since this is not a very good job, I mean to do a good job was another lifetime, right? But you just realize how different languages are in the way they cut up the whole world into different concepts. And for the entire human race, in terms of just understanding who we are, whenever a language dies, we lose another window into the universe. We lose the insight of a particular way of looking at things that is different from our own. And this is tragic, I think. Now, practically, how do you go about reversing this trend? It's not easy. First of all, you have to get the people themselves interested in it. And the fact is that it is possible to learn two languages and learn them well. In fact, at least half the people in the world, probably the majority, speak more than two languages. But how do you motivate them? People have to value the language, even if they recognize on some level that it's no longer very useful. How do you give people pride in a language? One thing I noticed when I made my big Penan dictionary is that even though this was a dictionary of Penan and the definitions are written in English, it's for foreigners learning Penan. It's for outsiders to understand Penan. But even Penans who didn't know English at all were almost overjoyed by how thick it was. You see, because it was thicker than the Malay dictionaries they saw in school. So this, in their eyes, this legitimized their language. This made it something real. This made it something valid. There's always this message that minority languages or even non-standard speech variants have less value. Even the word dialect, as linguists use the word dialect, we don't use it judgmentally. So a linguist would say that the King of England speaks a dialect of English. But most people understand this word dialect as being something that's inferior, right? But, the validity of a language, the validity of a speech variant. This is very important. And a dictionary can really serve that purpose. Now, in terms of the purpose of this particular dictionary, this Kelabit Dictionary, dictionaries in general are not terribly useful for native speakers who already speak the language well. English speakers often use a dictionary only because English spelling is so difficult. So you have to look up a word to see how it's spelled. Well, now you do it on your computer, so you don't even need the paper dictionary. Yes, but Kelabit has the advantage. English, people began writing English hundreds of years ago, and the language has changed so much that the spelling is just not in conformity with the way it's spoken. But Kelabit, once you decide which variant you're using, of course, matches very well. So Kelabits will never use a dictionary to look up spelling. And English speakers also use dictionaries to look at difficult words, rare words. This is where the Kelabit Dictionary will be useful, because increasingly, as the language is lost and as the as the cultural elements that the language describes are lost. Think of life upriver. Think of all the vocabulary surrounding rice farming and hunting and all of those things. Well, you don't need these in Miri. Even if you're speaking Kelabit in Miri, you're not using these words very often anymore. So these words can disappear. So it's very nice to have a dictionary. But the most practical purpose for the dictionary will be for young people who really have some exposure to the language and are motivated to learn it and to revive it. They'll be using this dictionary. The odd person like me who wants to learn Kelabit, but I want to learn Kelabit, but I'm too old. I don't think I'll. It takes a long time to learn a language. Yeah.
How many languages do you speak?
Oh, people always ask this question, how many languages do I speak? But I never know how to answer the question because I come back, how well do you want me to speak it before I can say I speak it? Okay, so at one time or other in my life, I think I've been able to carry on a conversation in something like 10 or 11 languages, but right now, I don't think I could carry on a conversation in more than about 6. And also, Malay temporarily becomes unavailable to me when I'm living with the Penans. Even when I get to Long Seridan. Because I get out there and I think I'm starting to speak Malay, and all these Penang words come out of my mouth. So in fact, when last time I met Sina Siren, actually on the plane, right? And I think she speaks English, but she's not that good in English. And so I just spoke to her in Penang. Because now she speaks quite good Penang, so it's no problem. So anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about Mutang now. Now, this dictionary is, I want to explain how remarkable it is because I've done quite a lot of research on dictionaries, and I spent some time in a very good research library in Vancouver, and there's whole shelves of dictionaries of mostly languages with very few speakers, the names of which I didn't even know. And you look at them, and well, any dictionary, no matter how thin, of a language for which there is very little documentation, is a wonderful thing, and we're lucky to have it. But by the standards of the dictionaries of major languages, most of them were really, really poor, and in many cases they're just word lists. Like, you know, this is a list of the words in one language and the English words in another column. And a dictionary like that doesn't really help you learn a language. And this is why I kept on encouraging Mutang to make examples. He said, that's the value of a dictionary. Examples are the flesh. Otherwise you just have bones. So with this dictionary, because of the examples, you see, and Mutang says he's not really qualified to write a dictionary, but the reality is that the vast majority of academic linguists are not qualified to write dictionaries, and they don't. And they could be qualified if they were interested, but they're not interested. Why aren't they interested? Because it's just too big a job. And an academic, I mean, to get a doctorate in any field, or you have maybe 2 or 3 years. Maybe, I mean, you can't even learn a language properly in that time unless you're immersed in it. They never get the funding for that. So all they do is the grammar. But the grammar is much easier. There's much less to a grammar than there is to a dictionary. So only kind of eccentric amateurs like Mutang and me actually write dictionaries. and actually, yeah, because it just takes forever, right?
Ability to stick to it. Stickability.
So this is a remarkable achievement, and you should be proud to have it because, you know, there are very few dictionaries in Sarawak. There's there's an Iban dictionary, which looks pretty good actually, but I think this is probably better because it has more examples. There is a Kenya dictionary. You can find a website, but these people won't even answer you. You send an email, you don't even know who it is. It's unfinished, and it's better than nothing. And I'm very interested in Kenya because it's actually very close to Penang, in fact. But this is so much better. And most of these, Lunbawang, well, the decision was made back then to translate the Bible into Lunbawang, but no one made a dictionary. And maybe this will inspire them. The thing about a dictionary is that for when you have basically two variants of one language, you can put it in one dictionary because you see it all the time. If you look at an English dictionary, if you look at a British dictionary, it gives American usage in brackets. It tells you. And vice versa for a good American dictionary, which is not all of them, but Webster's dictionary, the big one, it'll do the same thing. So there's no reason why you can't put it all in the same books. Everyone can use it. You could also do it separately. But I hope that this will inspire the Lunbawang people who will already be able to use this, just as Kelabits used the Bible in Lunbawang. Now the other thing, I don't know how much time I have, probably I've spoken too long.
Question.
Yeah.
Are you aware there is a Kelabit Borneo Dictionary? It's online.
Kelabit Borneo Dictionary.
Yeah, it's a word list.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Word list.
Yeah.
You're aware of it?
Not really.
You're aware or you're not aware? Well, I got to know it because my elder daughter in university now.
Yeah.
She was given a project related to Kelabit language, and they found this online.
Online. Okay.
And she was questioning me. I went through the dictionary quickly, and it jumbled a lot. It's that no relationship. There are words which are not related, and some of them don't even relate to the object. Yeah. So I told her that I was asking where to find it. She said they found it. The team found it on the web. The title name is Kelabit Borneo Dictionary. Then I asked this Professor Belcher, who is a historian in Sabah, my good friend. He was also puzzled. Then I asked if there was, which I thought, going back to writing the Bible into translate the Bible into Kelabit. Back then was in 2010 or 2011. They offered me a book. It was Luke. I rejected because I could not write it because there's no Kelabit dictionary references for reference. And I told them at that time, and they are my friends, I said, if you want to translate the Bible into Kelabit, you must have a reference.
The Bible that's being written in Kelabit now, as opposed to Lunbawang, is that once people, if Kelabit is being sustained or revived, it really helps a language if it becomes a literature, a literary language. And that gives it not only more moral legitimacy, but it actually gives it a practical strength. Because someone, especially a poor foreigner like me, for example, it makes it much, much easier to study a language if you can read it, and there's something to read in it. So I mean, that's why I've been all these books. See, these are all books in Penang that I've been printing up, and I've already. it's quite heavy because to carry this up, especially into the jungle, it's a lot of weight. But these are all books in Penang, and it's all about Penang stories and Penang history and legends and myths and so you see, you need something like that. And I overheard you say in Kelabit that you recorded your grandfather.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see that in a book, nicely edited by you. And that, I want to see it printed out and circulated around as a start for a Kelabit literature. That's what every language needs. And nowadays, it needs a literature. So anyway, that's my. I've said enough. If any more questions or anything?
Terpilih tangan